Good morning. I hope you all slept well. I'm Ponsley Tilology from the Gambian IGF, moderating this session, an NRI session, the National and Regional Internet Governance Initiative session on data, focus on local data governance for public good. I will start from my extreme right to do a brief introduction. We have Aisha Jerid from the North African IGF. We have Chelsea Horn from the USA IGF. We have Ahmed Faraj, the chair of the North African IGF. And we also have Una Wang from the Singapore IGF and Beatrice Costa Barbosa from the Brazilian IGF. So you're welcome to this session, and we look forward to a very interactive session. We are going to have all our speakers speaking for 4 minutes on their areas of intervention. At the end of that 4 minutes, we're going to get Aisha to get us folks that are online to take questions from them. Then we go to the audience. Then we go to a reflective takeaways from the panels. I know a lot of people are tired. This is the last day of the IGF, but we hope data is very key. As we all say, data is the new oil, and data has to be done for the public good. So I will start off with Ahmed to discuss about data in terms of regulatory frameworks and how it looks at it. Over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Ponslet, and thank you all for attending this session. It's really, I'm proud to be part of this important discussion. And I think we all agree that data governance became a critical priority as we witness the growing influence of artificial intelligence and emerging technology. The demand of responsible, transparent, and right-based use of data is greater than ever. This technology rely heavily a massive amount of data, making it essential to establish a strong governance framework that protect privacy, build trust, and promote digital justice. Without sound of data governance, we risk deepening digital divide and enabling the misuse of data in ways that can harm individuals and communities. When we talk about data governance frameworks, we should not forget the importance of multi-stakeholders collaboration efforts. Engaging governments, the private sector, civil society, and technical community is essential as well. The open consultation, especially when dealing with emerging and complex issues such as AI regulation, is very important. Also, it's very important to share best practice of success stories regionally and globally, exploring the innovative approaches and technology to enhance data governance. I'm confident that the responsible data governance is not about regulation. It's not just about data regulation. It is about creating an ecosystem where data serve people, empower communities, and support innovation. As AI and digital technology continue to advance, we have to ensure that our governance frameworks evolve accordingly. This issue requires a balanced approach, one that is flexible enough to encourage innovation and make use of data for public good, but also strict enough to protect personal data and prevent misuse. Back to you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. I think that last statement to prevent data misuse is very key. I'm not going to waste time. We'll move to the second question because we have a lot of things to cover here. So over to you, Una, who will be talking about building multilingual systems and how to navigate the tension between data inclusion and data protection. Over to you, Una.
Okay, thank you, Pasalet. And good morning, everyone. My name is Una. I'm the co-founding member of Singapore Internet Governance Forum and the founder and CEO of Lingo AI. So today I'm the representative of the private sector here, and it's a pleasure to join the panel today. So yesterday I attended the 3 powerful workshops on indigenous languages in the digital age. And one thing is very clear is that each nation representative deeply care about their languages not being left behind in the digital and AI era. So there's a growing awareness that if a language isn't represented in the digital system, it risks disappearing entirely from future global conversations. So many of the world's languages are in danger of disappearing, and the limitations of a current speech recognition and generation technology will only accelerate this trend. We want to make it easier for people to access information and use devices in their preferred languages, and collecting the audio data for thousands of languages was first a challenge because the largest existing speech data size cover 100 languages at most. So there are currently over 7,000 languages being spoken around the world today. Moreover, there are more dialects which are often not represented in the training data, even for high resource languages such as English. So this can lead to the undesirable biases in the performance of these models. So from a private sector perspective, and Lingo AI is a AI and the data economy platform and designed to unlock the value of underrepresented language data. So we try to address this by building systems where communities are in control. We take a bottom-up, community-driven approach to build the multilingual AI systems. So one of our core frameworks is something we call language DAO, a decentralized autonomous language organization for each language group. So through this language DAO, speakers of the language can own, govern, and monetize their linguistic data. Each community decides what data to share, how it's used, and under what conditions. It's not just about inclusion, it's about sovereignty. So the platform we support is based on the personal online data storage inspired by the decentralized technologies such as the social linked data protocol. This means individuals and the communities can store their data locally and even on personal devices and authorize access to specific organizations. The data remain owned by the people, not by the centralized platforms. So the ownership isn't enough. We should provide the infrastructure and the connections. We also make data liquid and useful, helping community connect with organizations that need diverse language data for AI, education, accessibility, and more. And this way, we turn data into opportunity, responsibly and transparently, even the monetization opportunity. So we have learned the checkbox, and ultimately the conflict between data inclusion and data protection is real, but it's not unsolvable. So what need is community-driven governance, open tools, and a deep collaboration between multi-stakeholders. And that is my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ona. You really rounded it up about the need for inclusion and the need for it to be driven by the community in terms of languages. Without much ado, I'm going to hand over now to Chelsea from the USA IGF. She'll be addressing the question on how can mechanisms be implemented to make it easier for people to understand and manage the permissions they grant for the use of their data. You know, those permissions for the use of their data is very key. So over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you very much for this fantastic question, and thank you to the organizing committee for putting together this important panel with such esteemed colleagues. I really love this question because it brings together so many of the critical issues of data governance in a seemingly simple question or issue. So these issues are responsibility, design, privacy and security, safety, trust, consent, control, and choice, all within one simple premise of design mechanisms. It is important to ensure that any mechanisms implemented do not force undue burden of responsibility on people to manage their own data security and privacy. This is part of building in privacy and security measures by design. From there, making data permissions understandable and manageable is key to empowering individuals. There are several approaches to accomplish this. User-friendly interfaces. designing intuitive and visually engaging privacy dashboards and settings that are clearly, accessibly, and succinctly designed are important, and that as long as they address these few key details, such as who is collecting what data and why, so that means for what purpose, and how it will be used. Privacy-friendly choices and defaults are also important to address. To be conscious to avoid what's now being called dark patterns. Those are those deceptive and confusing structures that may nudge users towards choices they may not otherwise have made. Some other options in these user-friendly facing mechanisms. Granular consent mechanisms, moving beyond this all-or-nothing consent framework to allow users to grant specific permissions for different types of data use, so for analytics, personalized ads, or sharing with third parties. The challenge here with granular consent mechanisms is that while it offers more nuanced choice and control, it comes at the cost of information overload. Then we have just-in-time notifications, providing contextual notifications at the point of data collection or use, explaining the implications of granting or denying a specific permission. Now, this can help with the clarity of data collection, but also can create additional friction as users navigate through an interface. And finally, another option to consider are standardized consent language and icons. Developing standardized, easily recognizable icons, simplified language for common data permissions like nutrition labels that we see on food, and some standard localized defaults can all help to reduce cognitive load and information overload, all while aiming to empower people with information and choice. So to sum up, the design, development, and deployment of these mechanisms to empower people is a balancing act between responsibility, trust, resilience, and safety, and it's critical that we get it right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. You just spoke of a topic that is very interesting and very passionate, and everybody should take cognizance of the fact that a lot of use of our data is basically in fine print, and I think you have covered all the areas that people need to take note of in regarding use of their data and what permissions to seek. Without much ado, I'm going to move on to Beatrice, our colleague from the Brazilian NRI. Beatrice will be speaking on how to develop and implement a multi-stakeholder data governance processes quickly responsive to new technologies challenges. And of course, one of those new technologies challenges we are dealing with is AI. Over to you, Beatrice.
Oh, so this is the first one is supposed to turn on. Oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation for the Brazilian IGF to be here. I'm a member of the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee, which organizes the Brazilian IGF. I'm a member of the board as a civil society, one of the civil society representatives. And I would like to share with you a little bit about the long-standing tradition that Brazil has in promoting public participation in debates across various policy areas. Regarding digital issues, this tradition is reflected in the multi-stakeholder model endorsed by our Brazilian Internet Steering Committee. That it has more than 30 years of work and which is widely recognized as a global reference in internet governance. Over the years, CGI.br, the name of our committee in Portuguese, has contributed to key internet development process in the country, including the Marco Civil da Internet, the Brazilian Civil Rights Framework for the Internet, and the Brazilian General Data Protection Law, LGPD. Discussions around both laws began in parallel in the early 2010s through public consultations, already adopting a participatory and collective multi-stakeholder approach. Due to this long and collaborative process, our data protection law contains characteristics tailored to the Brazilian context. It's important to highlight that multi-stakeholder discussions promoted by the CGI, such as the Privacy and Data Protection Seminar and the Brazilian IGF, held for over 15 years, played a significant role in shaping the discussions regarding the law. Beyond the debates, the IGF Brazil has provided a space for the consolidation of a national community engaged in these topics with representatives from various stakeholders. Inspired by the European General Data Protection Regulation, the Brazilian law adopts a principle-based structure that enables adaptability in its implementation. To support the practical application of the law in different contexts, the Brazilian Data Protection Authority, the governmental body responsible for enforcing the law, has been elaborating interpretive guidelines to help harmonize understandings and assist stakeholders in implementing the law. In addition, the Brazilian Data Protection Authority has made efforts to include public participation in its rulemaking and regulatory process. These efforts include open calls for contributions and public consultations to capture society's perspectives on various topics under discussion. In this sense, at least formally, the authority is committed to considering non-governmental views in developing personal data governance in Brazil. Within the National Data Protection Authority structure, the National Council for Personal Data Protection and Privacy, it's worth mentioning. This consultative body supports the authority's work by conducting studies, organizing public hearings, and promoting data protection awareness. It has a multi-stakeholder composition, including representatives from government, civil society, the technical and academic community, and the private sector, besides labor unions and the CGI.br itself. We have a seat at this council. Brazil is also in the process of developing, as you mentioned before, developing a regulatory framework for artificial intelligence regulation. A proposed bill currently under discussion in the Parliament would establish the National System for AI Regulation and Governance, composed of the National Data Protection Authority as the coordination authority and a set of sectoral regulators. Such system would also include a permanent council for regulatory cooperation in AI responsible for dialogue with regulators and civil society, and also a committee of AI experts and scientists. Thus, the expectation is that the creation of regulatory guidelines under the system framework would be inherently collaborative and cooperative, involving various authorities and stakeholders. And while some data governance frameworks are already established, such as the guidelines and the framework in the European, the GDPR, and the Brazil data protection law, others are still under development. So principles such as those in São Paulo guidelines, the Net Mundial Plus 10 event that deal especially with the multi-stakeholder issue, can be essential in supporting the fair, accountable, and responsible implementation of such frameworks. The guidelines emphasize key elements such as ensuring balanced access to information for informed decision-making, respect for human rights and diversity in governance process, continuous stakeholder capacity building, cooperation and oversight among governance mechanisms, and a focus on delivering tangible and applicable outcomes. So I'll be happy to go a little bit further on these topics if you have time later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I think it just shows the work that this CGI.br is doing in terms of stakeholder engagement in regards to data protection. That covers a lot of aspects and the way you go about it dealing with the community. Without much ado, our last panelist for this session, before we go into the online questions from online and to you, our audience here, is Nancy Canassa from the Pacific IGF. Nancy will be speaking how can the Pacific and Global South network develop resilient and inclusive data governance frameworks that uphold indigenous data sovereignty. You know, when we're talking of indigenous data sovereignty, we have to know we are also dealing with those those people who, in a way, in this discourse sometimes feel marginalized. Over to you, Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy Kanasa from the Pacific, IGF. I work with the government of Papua New Guinea. I would like to take this opportunity to be speaking here. I'm here not only as a practitioner working on a real-world data governance challenges in Papua New Guinea, but also as a representative of government effort across the Pacific region. Our nation share common culture values, institutional landscape, and technological challenges which shape our collective approach to data governance. My response reflects the Pacific context, grounded in living experience and the realities of government-led initiative to support sustainable development amid global technological shift. One of the persistent challenges we face across the Pacific is the fragmentation of data systems, often referred to as data silos. This silo exists between government agencies, civil society, academia, and communities, limiting every actor's ability to share knowledge, coordinate response, and make informed decisions. But it is not just the silo themselves. We also face a deeper issue, the lack of strategic thinking and structured process to address them. In many cases, data governance efforts are reactive rather than proactive, and without a clear strategy, it's difficult to align institutions, build trust, or create systems that are resilient and inclusive. In Papua New Guinea, for example, the lack of coordinated data systems and strategic planning has led to delays in issuing birth certificate, a basic but essential service. Without streamlined data sharing between departments, families face long wait times and administrative barriers. Similarly, in Fiji, the e-bus ticketing system has exposed gaps in digital inclusion. Elderly citizens, rural communities, and those unfamiliar with digital tools often struggle to access or use the system effectively. This example highlights how digital inclusion and system barriers can prevent citizens from accessing essential service. They also underscore a greater need for public involvement and oversight in how digital systems are designed and governed. So I return to the question again. And in our case, the Pacific develop resilient and inclusive data governance framework that uphold indigenous data sovereignty. Breaking down these silos is essential. It requires trust, collaboration, and culturally grounded approach that respect local knowledge systems while enabling interoperability and innovation. Without strong institutional coordination, trust-building mechanisms, and policies that reflect our Pacific values and indigenous knowledge system, it became difficult to create governance frameworks that are both inclusive and resilient. As global technological shifts accelerate, it is increasingly important for Pacific nations to align with international standards, especially in areas like data privacy, cybersecurity, digital inclusion, and now artificial intelligence. One key answer is awareness and capacity building in the global space, where we can bring it back to be done in a way that is retailable and contextualized to local realities. Global frameworks and tools are available, but they must be adapted to fit culture, institution, and infrastructural context of Pacific nations to truly solve the issue we face in our countries. This is why government participation in global platforms such as the Internet Governance Forum is so critical for us. From my view, from the government, a department where we are mandated to make policies and technical implementation, the IGF provides a space for dialogue, learning, awareness of what we are doing, and influence where our passive voice can be heard. Our unique challenges can be understood and our priorities can be shaped global norms. One key benefit of engaging in such forum is the opportunity to build partnership and access resources that support the development of inclusive, locally grounded, and globally connected data governance framework. In closing, Resilient and inclusive data governance in the Pacific is not just a technical goal, it is a social, cultural, and institutional journey. It requires leadership, strategic thinking, and a commitment to ensure that no one is left behind in the digital age. When digital infrastructure excludes vulnerable groups, it undermines the principle of data as a global public good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It's good we have a speaker speaking from a government point of view, from lessons and implementation frameworks, focusing on indigenous data sovereignty from the Pacific, IGF, and now we are lucky, and thank you. Speakers for keeping the time very good. So we will have a good engagement with our audience here, which I'm sure represents different NRIs and other practitioners. I will now hand over to Aisha, who is moderating the online session on questions online, and then we'll move over to the audience. And from the audience, if you're asking any question, please say your name and your representation and who you're addressing the question to. If it's a general question, then I'll call on any of our distinguished speakers here to answer it. Over to you, Aisha.
Thank you, Poncelet. Good morning, everyone. So in terms of comments and reaction online, we didn't receive any comments yet. The only comment is from Wedibik, who was thanking Chelsea for her intervention. So we are yet to receive any other reaction. The session is still on, so we can receive other reactions or interventions. So over to you, Poncelet.
Thank you, Aisha, for that. So over to you, audience. Please, let's get your questions coming in.
Thank you, moderator. This is Mohammad Abdul Haq Onu, Bangladesh Internet Governance Forum. I am a Secretary General. My question is, given the limited adoption of comprehensive data protection laws in the Global South, how can we design context-sensitive data governance framework that uphold global standard of fairness and accountability while respecting local values, infrastructure limitations, and digital literacy levels, especially in countries like Bangladesh? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Any other one? That question I will let Beatrice from Brazil answer it, because they really have a good process we can all learn from.
Sure, thank you very much. I'm not pretty aware of the context of Bangladesh, but I can share a little bit what happened in Brazil during the process regarding the data protection development in Brazil, the data protection bill. We, as I mentioned before, we tried to foster a very collaborative process, because even if we were inspired by the European General Data Protection Regulation at that time, it was necessarily to adapt to the context and these global standards, as you mentioned, to our reality, a reality of a country of 220 million people, many of them that don't have digital literacy, that give our IDs everywhere to have discounts in prices of supermarkets and other sales in magazines. And then the idea was to take advantage of the development of the bill to raise awareness of people on the importance of this topic. And right now, the Brazilian data protection law was approved in 2018, so we have 7 years of implementation of the law in Brazil. We still have many people that are not aware at all of their rights regarding personal data protection, but we are moving forward, and one of the things that is important to bring this awareness to the population is the debates that we try to organize at the CGI.br, and also the Brazilian authority has promoted some seminars and public hearings and consultations to involve the Brazilian population in this debate. Because if we deal with this topic thinking that a data protection topic is something for experts or for scientists or for only digital rights civil society organizations, we're not going to achieve our goal that the Brazilian population feels that they have a right to that. In this process, one of the strategies that the Brazilian civil society managed to put in place was to include the data protection right in the list of civil rights in our constitution. This was a consequence of the bill after the bill was approved in 2018, and 3 years later, a Brazilian parliamentarian that was very much connected to the civil society movement decided to propose an amendment to the Brazilian constitution, and now, so besides the data protection law, we have, it is inscribed in our constitution that data protection is a right to every citizen. So it was necessary to give more visibility to this process in Brazil, and I think that after that, the Brazilian population is being worried and being alert all the time regarding their rights. But we still have a long way to fulfill this goal. Is that every citizen knows that he has a right to protect, to have his personal data protected by not only by the government but also by the private companies. But I think that engaging civil society all the time in this process, and not only treating this as something that is related to the government, has helped us to adapt the global standards to our context and to deal with the daily problems that the Brazilian population suffers.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for that brilliant intervention. I'll call out to Aisha, who wants to intervene on this topic. Aisha.
Yes, so we have an intervention, a reaction from the floor. It's Mr. Tijani Benjamin who wants to intervene. Mr. Tijani, please reactivate your mic. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Aisha, and thank you all for this wonderful session. I have a question to Una. You spoke about the ownership of the data by the users themselves, not by these big companies that are collecting our data, using them even without our consent. So you spoke about the ownership and the control of the data by the users. I think you are thinking about Web3, that is a project that Henry and other people are working on. I asked Henry in a previous session, since this Web3 project is based on blockchain technology, and blockchain technology consumes very, very huge quantity of energy, how this project can be feasible if we don't solve this issue of energy consumption? Thank you.
Thank you, Tijani. Luna, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think you have heard about the panel regarding Henry, who is one of my co-founder of Singapore Internet Governance Forum. And yeah, so a lot of people have the same concerns or the questions with you, like the Web3 is about blockchain or crypto. So this is something that is wrong because Web 3.0 has already defined in 2006. It's called the web of data. So the Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who has invented HTTP, have already defined what is Web 3.0. It's nothing related to the blockchain or crypto. So blockchain, like Bitcoin, has the value of the personal sovereignty of the finance. That's a finance value representative. And if you are thinking about Web 3.0, you should have a data, decentralized protocol, and you have the right side about the value, how you can monetize those personal data. Because we are talking about community-driven empowerment, is related to how we can let the community have the motivation to contribute and have the awareness about how they can get their data back. Now we are in the Web 2.0. Web 2.0 means all the websites, all the infrastructure built on TCP/IP and HTTP. That leads to the data flow to the centralized platform, such as Meta or Twitter. So every people, we don't have our own data ownership. That means in the era of the AI, the ChatGPT has used the public data size about 3 trillion tokens for training the AI system. And they're using our knowledge. They don't give our benefit. And you don't have your rights to know how they use your data. So in the Web 3.0, that is totally different because a lot of people has already got actions on that, such as Henry and I, and also the Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the solid social linked data, which is a decentralized protocol for all the users to own their data by the personal online pod. That means you can deploy this pod on your local device, on your local PC, on your local phone, or you can choose the different, like the cloud host service, like AWS or any other. But this is going to have the privacy preservation, and you are going to control whether you want to authorize the organization or not. So we are building that in this way, called Web 3.0. Is called a web of data, and people have the right to share all the data, to know who are going to use and how to use, and whether you want to give the money to me because I share the data, I share the value to the organization who wants to use my data. So we are using the different like protocols, and also we are, of course, we have to use blockchain because for the global payment, each country's people have the right to got the different, like their currency. This is more complex when you're going to send the money to the different people. So the blockchain, like tokens, is one of the value of the backup data. So you're going to know what is Web 3.0 and what is Web 3. Web 3 is wrongly defined by Gavin Wood because he is in the blockchain and the crypto, and he defined himself as the Web3 father of the father of the Web3, but it's totally different. So I think everyone should have the awareness like what is the real Web 3.0, and we should get our data back in the AI era, because in the future, if you want to have a safe AI or personal AI agent, you have to get your data back, and you have to deploy a small language model on your local device combined with your personal data size. Yeah, so hopefully I answer your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Ona. We'll try to keep it short. We have 20 minutes, and I want to use 5 minutes to take questions. Then any other question from the audience. Then we go into last words, especially this is a focus on NRIs. And in those last words, I will start with Chelsea. So.
Yeah, we have a question from the floor from Mr. Yangshu Chen. It's a question and a comment. I'll start by the question. So the question to all the panelists: how can we design regional data agreements to support cooperation without turning them into non-tariff or technical barriers to trade? This was the question, and all the panelists feel free to answer. And then he commented, Bhutan use electronic identity system on blockchain. I guess it's to react to the last intervention from the panelist. Every Bhutanese can own their data and the data ownership. That was all from the floor. Now we move to the question that he asked. Thank you.
So who wants to take that question? Or I'll put you on the spot. Okay. I'll hand the question over to Nancy.
So one of the ways I could think of is invest in infrastructure and digital literacy, and create probably a regional data council for policy coordination, encourage cross-border data sharing agreement with safeguards.
Okay. Beatrice.
No, just to add something that after the Brazilian data protection law was approved in 2018, I know that many Brazilian parliamentarians that were involved in the process of designing the law started traveling a lot on the region to talk to other parliamentary members or governments or authorities or regulators or even with the civil society movement and organizations to share what happened in Brazil and mentioning the participatory process that we have when designing the bill. So I think that this kind of it's not a scholarship, but some kind of promoting exchanges among bodies and authorities and civil society members and representatives is interesting to help building a regional context of, because in Brazil, I mean, Brazil has many differences regarding our neighbors, but there are many things that are quite similar, and I for sure I think that is the same in your region. Then we can take advantage of the mistakes and of the problems that we face during the development of the bill and in the implementation of the law that other countries may avoid if we share these experiences. So I think that would be, I think the idea of having councils to gather different countries is super interesting process, but even starting exchanging experience, and that's why IGF is so important for that, because we're exchanging experience here from all over the world. It's important to help build this regional consciousness regarding the importance of data protection.
Thank you very much. Aisha,
No comments, no reactions so far.
anybody from the audience? I'll go to 5. 5, 4, okay.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Abdul Jalil Basharbong. So I'm coming from Chad, the national coordinator of IGF Chad. So I think that it is a great session because this session talk about data governance. I think that is very key. I think that in Chad we are thinking now how to work, because in Chad the Data Protection Act is managed by the National Cyber Security Agency. It's under the Ministry of Security, not Ministry of ICT. So that because last year during the IGF we talked a lot about that. People don't know, the citizens don't know that we have this kind of act. I think that we need to communicate more on that. So I think that for this year we need to see how, not for the annual meeting, but how to do some workshop focused on that. And the local languages, we need to go like in village and some cities that we see it, because most of social media is used by people of rural area because they are using satellites. This what we are seeing. So I think that they have WhatsApp group that administrators, they don't know how to deal. They don't know the Data Protection Act. So I think that this kind of things that as NRIs, we need to go close to them, to marginalized people of rural area, to talk to them. This is act. If you do bad things, you can be in justice on the court. So we need to tell them on that. I think that this one of our focus this year, and we need to collaborate with others NRI who had experience on that, and to impact our people. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bashar from the Chad IGF. I think that sums up a lot on how we need to collaborate more as NRIs in this field of local data governance for global public good. I will now, any other question from the audience?
Yes.
Okay.
Kosi Amesinu from Benin. Personally, this is very good session. We were talking about data, local data, but we don't have data center. Where do I put the data? Where do I put it? We need data center first, green data center, and now process to access to our data locally is very important. Let's talk to Meta, TikTok, all of them to come and build data center in Africa, put our data locally in our language also, if it's possible, and let us check, use our data to train our internet intelligent artificial process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kosi. I think you said it all about localization of having data centers built into digital sovereignty. I will now call on Chelsea to give her closing remarks and as NRIs what we can do in our communities. Remember, this is an NRI session, and we at the bottom of the ladder within the internet governance initiatives, and I think this is a very important topic for all of us, and I would like Chelsea to give her closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Poncelet, for such a wonderful session. From IGF USA, this is a very exciting session because it gives us lots of energy and ideas for our regional IGF later this year. So we're very excited to continue the dialogue. And I think that one of the most important things is the similar themes here to global IGF, which is the multi-stakeholder dialogue, and to make sure that we are bringing members from all different elements of the multi-stakeholder community, and having that meaningful stakeholder engagement is absolutely crucial for fostering both public trust, transparency towards these data governance and internet governance frameworks, and making sure that they are both robust and legitimate. So that's something that we are going to be working on in particular, is having the continuing, hosting, and promoting these multi-stakeholder dialogues. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Nancy, your closing remarks?
Okay, from the PAC IGF, I think I would say that having ethical and human-centric governance approach, like digital inclusion and also safeguard against exploitation, is coming from the Pacific Island. You know, we are kind of like left behind in most of the things that we think that we are doing in regard to digital transformation. Thank you.
Beatrice?
Yeah, we already have our Brazilian IGF this year before coming to Norway. In the topic of data governance and data protection is always present in the workshops that are proposed for our internet governance community in Brazil, which is very active and participative. And we are facing, I think, that a new challenge in Brazil, that something, I think that is a topic that many other countries from the Global South also discusses, has to do with the question that our colleague from the BINA mentioned, that has to do with digital sovereignty. I'm sorry. We are fostering from the civil society perspective a discussion and debating in Brazil that has to do with how do we control our data, how do we guarantee that data treatment and it's made in Brazil respecting human rights in general, but also for our development. So one of the things that I would mention to the final comment that our colleague said here is that I would encourage you not only to invite TikTok or Meta to build data centers in your country, but for your country, your companies, your government, the public, to build a public infrastructure to deal with the data from the Benin citizens, because this is important for your digital sovereignty, and in a word that we are only sharing our data with global companies at the future, in a future that is not that far from us, and now we're going to face many big problems. So we are fostering the discussions in Brazil. I think that we have at the Brazilian Internet steering committee, a working group that works with data protection as well. As I mentioned before, we had a seat in the Brazilian Council for Data Protection that is connected to the Brazilian authority. So we'll keep moving on the discussion and happy always to share this with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Una?
Yeah, I totally agree with the panelists. And this is the first time I came to the IGF, and Singapore internet governance is quite new. We just are recognized by the UN IGF this year in January. So I attended different workshops and the conference. I saw the similar problems that encountered with the previous what we have been solving. Is like the audience just raise the questions. They don't have the data center. And that means the centralized social media platform or any internet infrastructure cannot cover global south people's data, and also they don't have the rights to share or they represented it in this current AI era. So we really encourage every people from global south to see the new protocols that we don't have to learn from the current like centralized platform, like you're building your own data center or you're collecting the data in a centralized way. You can do something that's quite fascinate and use the frontier technologies to see you have the data ownership and you build your own data by your own protocol. That means no one can access unless you authorize, you consent. So you can help those AI companies to train based on your own data sets, and some other peoples also can do this in this similar way. At the same time, you have your own data value and you will have monetize your own data. That's the best way that can bring the wealth to the global south people by using your own local data, and you can accumulate your own data sets day by day, and in the future you are the one who control the data and you are building your own value in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Una. Ahmed, closing words.
Thank you again. I think in the North African IGF, in the recent years, many countries of the North African have started to recognize the strategic value of the data governance. Egypt, for example, has taken concrete steps to establish legal institutional foundation for data governance, and the personal data protection law has been released in 2020 after public and community consultation. Also, the National Digital Strategy of Egypt includes strong components of data governance. And I think my final words will be, it is very important to be ready and continue enhancing the frameworks based on the updates on technology we saw every day. And then so we have to be flexible, not strict on the current frameworks. No, we have to be ready and continue our enhancement in this framework. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all my panelists. And before I close this session, as I said, this local data governance for global public good session was organized, is an NRI session and was organized by NRIs. It took a lot months of planning, so I want to thank all the NRIs that planned this. Singapore IGF, IGF USA, IGF Brazil, Zambia Youth IGF, the Gambia IGF, Portugal IGF, Colombia Youth IGF, Brazil IGF, I've said it before, Japan IGF, Lebanon IGF, Benin Youth IGF, Colombia IGF, and Argentina IGF. And I also want to thank my brilliant panelists. I know today is the end of the session, but please feel free to contact them. These are experts in this field. We had two government representative. We have an academic who is from the USA IGF. We also have Una, who just started the Singapore IGF, and it's good. We have new, we have old, and we have Brazil, who we learn a lot from within what they are doing. Aisha, thank you very much for the online moderation, and can we give a round of applause for our panelists? Thank you. and then we go.